Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of Unpacking with Sarah. I'm your host, Sarah Westbrook. Just a quick reminder that we are changing the name of our podcast host to Unpacking with Sarah. Our goal is to be more inclusive and broaden our audience so that more people are interested in coming and learning the skills that you are already learning here today. So thank you so much for joining us. Today, as promised, we're going to be talking about the difference between top-down anxiety or bottom-up anxiety. We can also call that a top-down amygdala reaction or a bottom-up amygdala reaction. We're going to be in the beginning of today more educational, and at the second half, we're going to be a little bit more application. But the application is going to take us a couple of weeks to really get through. I do this on purpose because information overwhelm is a real thing. And if I just pound you with a whole bunch of information all at once, you're going to remember a small piece of it. But then putting it into context for you to actually utilize every piece of this at a time is going to be very complicated. You're going to miss steps. It's normal for you to then have increased amygdala stimulation, which means more anxiety, more depression, more of those 5 Fs. Remember, our 5 Fs are fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop. Which we have talked about in the past. We're going to talk about those over and over and over again. You're going to get really familiar with that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop acronym, or the 5 Fs. I like to call them the 5 FUs because that's how they feel. And so today I am giving you just a small piece of this. A lot of you are going to be able to take that and just run wild with it. And that's a great thing. Most of us, though, are going to be like, okay, I get it a little bit. And as we continue to do these podcasts, it will unfold. Now, if you are joining us and watching these later in time, where we have, 12, 15, 20, 120 of these sessions up and running, I'm going to advise you slow down. Binge watching our show, it makes me feel really good. It really boosts our numbers. But when you listen to so many at one after the other, it does impair your ability to actually apply it. Again, information overload, information overwhelm is a real thing. And when we're trying to apply 8 or 9 new techniques all in one, we tend to get overwhelmed and we don't apply any of them as effectively. So I'm breaking these up into really small sessions on purpose so that way you can build every week on the skills that you learned last week. Again, remember, your homework assignment after every single one of these episodes is to take the application piece and practice it 3 to 5 times a week for 3 to 5 minutes every day. That's the fancy 15, 3 to 5, 3 to 5, every day, for 3 to 5 weeks. Okay. And that helps build your quote unquote muscle memory. It's not really muscle memory. Our muscles don't have that memory. That's brain memory. When you use it, you retain it. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so our goal there is to make sure that you're practicing these skills when you're calm. So that way, when you get activated, it's familiar to you and your brain is more likely to engage in the application piece, making these skills much more beneficial for you in the long run. Okay, so what is bottom up and top down? Alex, if you can pull up our nice little worksheet, I'm going to be reading off of mine. So if you notice the first section right here, these nice little arrows, it talks about what's the difference between bottom up or top down anxiety. Now, this worksheet will be available on my website in about 2 weeks for 99 cents. You can download it, print it off for yourself, and utilize it at home. Right now, I have my appointment to completely revamp the website for Monday for those of you in real time. And all of the worksheets and things that we're utilizing will be available to you. The worksheets that I've designed will be available at the cost of 99 cents a piece. And then the ones that are Adobe stock photos that I paid the license for, I can't charge you for those. So lucky you, you get those for free without having to go search for them. And then you can print those off. Okay, so bottom up anxiety is the type that I see most often with my first responders, my military personnel, individuals who have had that single traumatic event in which, so the best example I have is with my veterans. If a car backfires or fireworks go off, they hit the floor or they have that reaction to save your life immediately. What happens in bottom up anxiety is that the anxiety originates in that amygdala. So you get, first comes the amygdala, second comes the physiological response, third come your thoughts or how you think and feel about that. It is so reactive that you do not have much of a cognitive thought where you can actually do anything with that cognitive thought before you're already in that panicked response. Okay. Your next one, your top down anxiety, originates in your frontal cortex. This is probably the most common anxiety that we experience. And that means that first come your thoughts, second comes the physiological response, and third comes your amygdala. So this is where, so for example, I'll give you a little story here, and I'm going to use some of Brene Brown's language. And I want you, if you haven't looked at Brene Brown stuff, absolutely do that. She's amazing. She talks about shame, but she also gives you vocabulary to utilize this. And I'm going to use some of that vocabulary here right now. So in my life, I recently had an issue with my sister. So I've got one sister that I communicate with, I don't know, every 7 or 8 months when something comes up in the family that needs to be discussed. She's kind of my go-to person. She's kind of neutral ground, and she's really good at honoring boundaries. So that way she doesn't enter into what I like to call I got to use my dad's name from the book, the Dave and Sarah drama saga is what I like to call that. And so she's really good at those boundaries. Well, I sent her a message that was very urgent, in my opinion, very urgent, that needed a response. And she had gone dark. She wasn't responding to me or anything. And she did not respond to me for a little over 24 hours. We'll just say 30 hours for the sake of today. The Brene Brown language that I'm using here is the story I told myself was my sister was ignoring me. She was talking about me behind my back. Again, it was going to explode. The whole family's going to know, and we're going to enter another massive blow up with my family. Now, for those of you who have not read my book or haven't been following the Unpacking Mormonism series, I don't have contact with my parents, and I don't have contact with two of my siblings ever, because it's just toxic. Like, I become toxic, they become toxic. It's just a mess. And so the story I was telling myself is that my sister, Evelyn, from the book, my sister Evelyn, was ignoring me and creating drama behind the scenes. Now, I had no basis for that. The only factual information I had was that she wasn't contacting me. So this top-down anxiety response is the story I told myself in my frontal cortex was, she's creating drama. I then began to get that racing heart and that tunnel vision, and all I could think about for that whole day was how she's now betrayed me too, just like everybody else. I'm so tired of the Lee family picking on and scapegoating me and my kiddos. But my husband's the hero, just so y'all know. He's apparently a victim of my crazy and blah, blah, blah. Right? So that's my physiology. I then am getting that tension and the shakiness that we've talked about in the past that comes with anxiety. And third, my amygdala picks up on that, and then I'm done for the day. And coming out of that is very, very difficult. Again, this top-down anxiety is what's probably most common in a first world country, because we're not fighting for, most of us are not fighting for our lives every day. And if you are fighting for your life every day, please reach out to the numbers that are scrolling on the bottom of your screen. So the domestic violence hotline, which is 800-799-SAFE, or the child abuse hotline, which is 800, the number 4, the letter A, child. Or if you yourself are in a mental health crisis, call or text 988. So those are the numbers that are scrolling along the bottom of the screen. But most of us are not fighting for survival every single day. So again, that bottom up anxiety comes when there's no thought, and your anxiety attack or your amygdala reaction just pops up out of nowhere, and you either fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or flop. Okay. Without frontal cortex engagement. It just happens. Top down anxiety is where your frontal cortex starts creating a narrative. You have a physiological response, and then your amygdala takes over because it identifies your own thoughts as a survival issue. Like, you are going to die because you're thinking A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. Bottom up anxiety is usually cured and regulated from the deep breathing exercise alone. And that's the deep breathing exercise that we talked about in session 2. So If you want to review that, that's the You're Breathing Wrong episode. Usually bottom up anxiety just needs you to start breathing, calm the amygdala, your frontal cortex comes back online. It's able to make the connection. Hey, I thought I was in my car accident again, or, ooh, that was a flashback. I'm okay now. Top down anxiety requires a great deal more effort to get through it. And then I would like to say there is a such thing as bottom up, top down, where you cycle, meaning these are my veterans where they might hit the floor because of that car backfire. But then when their amygdala starts to come online, it creates a narrative. And then you're just in this nasty cycle of amygdala responses. So that's a real thing as well. The way that we work through bottom up, top down is the same way as we work through just simply top down anxiety. Step one is to separate yourself from the environment. And this can be very difficult to do. Remember that if you're in an argument with somebody, you need to give them a warning of when you're coming back. So this would look like, hey, I need about 20 minutes. Like, I'm really triggered. I need 20 minutes. I'm going to head outside and just take a breather. Then step number 2 is your breath work. Okay. You need to breathe. Step 3 is your movement. And we're really going to get into the mind body connection next session. So that'll be session 3B, I believe, is where we're going to be at. So we need to get that movement. We're going to talk about the energy in your body and why movement is so valuable for a panic response or a 5F response. Step 4 is rest and recovery. Now, not everybody needs a rest and recovery space, but most of us do. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Remember, here at the bottom, when we're doing our bottom up or our top down, you can come at the bottom of the stairs. You've got your amygdala response. This is your smoke detector. Something's wrong. You need to get out. You need to fight. You need to do something because your house is on fire. Like, right? That can feel like numbness, racing heart, sweaty palms, shaking, tunnel vision, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And I need to add the flop in there. I'm going to have to call my designer and say, hey, we missed flop on that bottom one. The next one is your physiology and the way we respond to that physiology. So this is what it is. This side is recognizing it. Okay, so smoke detector goes off in that amygdala. You end up with numbness, racing heart, sweaty palms, shaking, tunnel vision, or one of your 5Fs, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop. Your physiology, how do I respond to that? I slow my breathing. This is where we inhale for 5 counts, exhale for 5 counts. Don't hold your breath. Remember, if you hold your breath, your amygdala freaks out because it's like, oh my gosh, we're dying. And now we're not getting oxygen. Holy hell, we're going to die. Okay. Then in order to re-engage that frontal cortex, we need to breathe and move. Okay, so move, walk, run, yoga, lift weights, stretch. It can be gentle movement. It can be heavy movement, whatever works for you. And then your wise mind is where we find that calm. So when I hit wise mind, when I'm back in my frontal cortex, I want to be calm. I want to feel my creative juices turning back on. I want to be focused, controlled, and my ability to accept things radically, which we will be talking about radical acceptance at a future date. But our ability to just accept things the way they are comes on and engages best when we are fully in our frontal cortex. So if you have any questions about this bottom up, top down, you can reach me personally. I check this email is daisygirlcommunications@gmail.com. That is my email address. So if you would like to reach out and ask me a question about this or about anything else, you are welcome to. Or if you want to find the worksheets, they'll be up in a couple of weeks. You're going to visit our website at daisygirlcommunications.com and you're going to go up under the worksheets or the reading materials. I don't remember where it's at. I'll let you know after we redesign the website with the new branding stuff. I'm super excited about it here at daisygirlcommunications.com and Unpacking with Sarah. It's been great seeing you again. Remember, if you are in crisis or if somebody else you know is in crisis, the domestic violence hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. Our child abuse hotline is 1-800, the number 4, a child. Or if you are the one that is in crisis, please call or text 988. Those numbers are there to keep you alive and well. I have used them. I encourage you to do the same. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.